Auckland level 4, good morning, goeiemorgen. Lekker hier in level 2, nee.
Môre.
Good morning, guys. To those in Auckland, I know you normally have the saying that it's too late for you guys. You are on your way to work, but this morning you got no reason to leave for work because the ground outside your house is lava. That's just cinder. Morning. I'm going to ask Mariska some questions this morning. And the problem is she hasn't got the faintest idea what I am going to ask.
And I only woke up half an hour early.
She only woke up half an hour
Ago.
later. She thought she was in Auckland and sleep until what time? In the morning. All right. I want to ask you this question. What was your first impression of New Zealand?
The very first time that we got here,
Yeah, that impression.
okay, we arrived in Auckland and I thought Auckland, or the area that we lived in, which was Takapuna, was it Takapuna?
Something
Yeah.
like that.
I thought it looked like what was that movie?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you the question.
The one with Jim Carrey.
I don't know.
I'll remember in a while. Yeah, I like New Zealand. It was really beautiful. My mindset was just not right. So I think I would have thought different of New Zealand if my mindset was in a different way. But it was still beautiful. I loved it. It was really beautiful.
Okay. What was your first impression of the first coffee shop you stepped in?
I said to him, "Is this a coffee shop? Is it just like a? It's like a little room with tables and chairs. There's nothing fancy about it." So I was just thinking, my word, really, they should just do something about their coffee shops. There's nothing fancy about it. It changed all that. It really did change.
From 2016
it's much
to,
better
to
now. Yeah, I think the influence of the immigrants made it a little bit better.
I think one of the first pies we bought in New Zealand was from a Chinaman.
Yes.
What was your thoughts?
When we walked into the, was it a bakery? I suppose
Bakery,
it was a bakery. Because we walked past Kentucky and we just thought, no, we're not going to pay that for Kentucky. And we decided, okay, pies are the least expensive, so okay, let's go for pies. And when we saw it was Chinamen, we were thinking, oh my word, what is in those pies?
We thought about everything else that can go meow and so forth.
We had our reservations about it, but it was really good. I think it was one of the best pies
we've
that
ever
we've
eaten at that stage of our
yeah.
life. So, you've been to quite a few countries in your life. New Zealand compares to the rest of the world well or not well?
Very well.
Why?
Look, I think when you look at countries, when you look like just having a holiday there, and when you look at it as having to live there, your perception will be quite different. So for living in, I think New Zealand is probably the best, one of the best. Okay. Otherwise, just for holiday, and I think I will also be able to live there, like Italy. Italy is beautiful, but I think it can be quite difficult if you want to live there just because of the language barriers and all that. So for living in, I think New Zealand is definitely one of the best.
Especially the climate and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can I tell people some of your secrets and then ask you questions regarding it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, back in South Africa, Mariska wasn't a big driver. She basically worked in the same suburb that she stayed about 4 or 5 blocks away. Is that right? And she used to drive there and back during the day, and she would drive to our nearest shopping center, which was about 2 kilometers away. And that was about the extent of your driving. But these days, she grabs the wheel and she just goes. What has made that difference?
I think I feel safer on the road in New Zealand. Look, there's still some people that can't drive, but at least they're only able to drive like 50 in the suburbs and
You never thought
80.
it was you were the person that can't drive.
No,
Okay.
I just feel safer on the road. I'm not that anxious. I think that's why
Okay.
it's easier for me to
Okay.
drive. Yeah.
It's interesting. I think the first shop we went in was a Pack and Save. Is that right?
No, the very first shop that we went to when we got here. No, it was it a countdown or
They
something?
come
We
down.
didn't know about Pack and Save until
Okay.
later. Yeah.
What if you think back to the first shop you've gone in 2016 and the shops you go to now, which is the same brand at the end of the day? What has changed? Has anything changed, or
In Pack and Save, nothing has changed. It still looks the
still
same.
got the stigma?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just it's like a big micro.
Mhm.
But I like shopping there. For with Countdown, the first time I walked into a Countdown, it was good, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like we were used to. But now I must say the Countdowns, they really stepped up. It looks like South African grocery stores. It's
Yeah,
really beautiful.
very near to the point of Woolworths, basically.
Yeah,
Am I
yeah.
right?
No, it looks really good.
My first thoughts, being a man, was the cars that the people were driving in 2016
Mm,
and the cars that they're driving now.
mm.
It's two total different countries if you have got to think about that.
Yeah.
2016 was old cars, really, really old
Mm.
cars. That was the main thing. You didn't see a lot of Fords that time. You didn't see a lot of you saw Mazdas. You didn't see any European cars actually on the road. So old
Yeah.
Golfs and those
If
type
you
of
think
things.
it's only like how long ago was that?
Oh, that's 4 years ago, 5 years
5 years
ago.
ago. Yeah. These days, a lot of new cars on the
Mm.
road. Yeah,
And
definitely
we
that
actually
changed.
was at a B&B in a very affluent area in Auckland. We didn't know it was an affluent area, but we later saw what the house prices was down there
Oh,
at that
yes.
stage. And these people were driving very ordinary cars, very, very ordinary old cars. And they had a brother or sister or somebody like that coming to visit them with a newish type of Jag. And they called him out and said, "What's a flash guy? This flash guy, flash guy."
It's the
We-
Flash brother. It was the Flash
And
brother.
we thought, okay, wow, all right.
Yeah, well, it was a Flash car.
It was a
still
flash
is.
car, but
yeah.
that was a normal car for people in South Africa. Or a lot of people drove that car in South Africa. That was the only one we ever saw in Auckland, actually, by the way. So, I mean, if you drive through certain areas of Auckland these days, if you're allowed to drive through certain areas, you'll get Porsches, Lambos, whatever else on the road these days. So,
Yeah.
the growth and the prosperity growth has really been there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, this would be probably. What was your first thought back? Let's say back in 2016 when we visited here. You remember we walked through portion of Auckland and we looked at those house prices there.
Mm.
Thinking back to that now, it was actually cheap.
Yeah.
It was actually cheap.
I think
But-
then it was what we pay for a normal house now.
But then it was, oh, wow, really? Everything was over
Yeah.
$1 million. Everything was over $1 million.
Yeah.
And what was that area called? It's
Was it
in Milford or something like that.
Is it
Yeah,
Milford?
could be. It's in
Can't
near the
remember.
North Shore. And everything there was over $1 million. And it was really beautiful houses.
is
Let's face it, it
beautiful.
was beautiful houses. And I don't have a faintest idea what those houses cost these days. I'm not even going to try that. But at that stage, that was a heck of a lot of money. And these days, you can't buy a house under a mil. Really, you can't buy a house under a mil. Good morning to Charlie Smith. It says morning on the other channel. So,
Murra.
more. Yeah. All right, let's go to the cultural aspect of New Zealand. The first time you saw Maori that has his full face tattooed, what was your thoughts?
I was impressed.
I just thought, wow, it must have been so.
I was also thinking that. That's why I was impressed. Can you just imagine what you have to go through
I
to
can't
look
even
like
think
that?
if I was
Yeah.
impressed or not impressed. I just thought,
And
Jesus.
then you
so...
shouldn't stay, but I actually want to have a look at all the
the finer the
The
patterns.
detail,
Yeah,
yes. I want to have a look at the
yeah.
detail. So that's why I'm staring. I'm not staring because I think,
Because
wow,
there's
lovely
something
done.
to the pattern. It's just not
Yeah,
a
it's
random thing.
beautiful. Yeah, and everything means something.
Yeah, I know the South Africans go and tattoo all these Chinese characters on their bodies that they don't have the faintest idea what it means. But these guys have got method to the madness. That the whole
Yeah, I was actually quite
fern thing
impressed.
and everything
Yeah.
else. Yeah,
Still now, when I see some of the women that's only got that bit on the
Mokka.
chin, is it a mokka? I
Mokka,
don't know what
something
it
like
is.
that. Yeah,
But I just want to.
Mokka.
I wish I can find someone that I can just say, just stop. I just want to have a look.
So probably have a look on the internet and take a photo. That would probably
It's
be
not
less
the same.
intrusive. So
Yeah.
I know it's not the same. Yeah. Yeah, it's always I like to think back about first impressions and what has changed since then. So one thing that impressed me in New Zealand was dogs. Back in 2016, when you arrive at a place, you'd see a dog and they won't really bark at you.
No.
While in South Africa, if you see the dog, it's probably always too late. The dog will nearly bite you.
But I think in South Africa, you train your dog.
No, that
to bark.
I fully agree with
To-
that.
to
I
bark.
fully agree with that. You train him to bark, you
Yeah.
train him to be aggressive. These dogs are just
Quiet.
sloppy monsters. They go.
Yeah.
So yeah, what else impressed you the first time? Let's talk impressions, not good impressions. I'm not talking about bad impressions. What was the good impressions you had the first time you arrived in New Zealand in 2016?
I love the scenery. I love the
Okay.
scenery.
Okay.
I
What scenery? The rural side or the
no
buildings?
the rural the nature.
Nature.
Yeah.
Okay.
The houses, I wasn't that impressed with the houses because
Mm.
at that stage also I was just thinking, okay, it's wooden houses. I wasn't very much. I didn't trust with the wooden houses at all. Um, but yeah, no, the nature was just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, that was also. I always loved it when we drove down to Natal. You know, the green hills, that long sloping, what they call 1,000 hills or something like that in Natal. That green that you can see forever.
Yeah, and also remember we didn't know anything about all these geysers and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So that was quite impressive.
Yeah.
I was just we drove. I think it was from Rotorua or to Rotorua or something from Napier's side. And then on the farms, which was also these hilly, green, beautiful slopes, the sheep were lying on the grass and all this smoke came from the grass. So I was just thinking, oh my word, can you imagine how nice and warm it must be? Because it was winter at that
Yeah,
stage.
but I doubt it's like, because in the meantime, I felt areas that looked like it, but it wasn't warm. So it's just physically that the steam comes
isn't it warm?
No, it's not really warm.
Oh, I thought the ground was warm.
Otherwise, it would be roast lamb
Yeah,
lying
so
there.
I was very intrigued with the smoke that came from the ground all over. Really loved it.
Yeah, that was one thing that impressed me. The other thing that I want to say I was impressed by that was the fact that you looked at the GPS. It shows you're 100 kilometers away from a place, and in your mind you say to yourself 40 minutes drive, but the GPS says 2 hours. And I thought, goodness me, all these GPS is wrong in New Zealand, and they were not.
And that is a problem, but it was also a problem for us. I think every country has got its own kind of feel to it. When we were in
let's call it uniqueness.
Yeah, when we were in England, it was the same.
Or Scotland.
Yes, because so you kind of work out before you come to New Zealand or to whichever country. Okay, we're going to stay one night in this hotel, and then we're going to drive there, and then we're going to drive there. So you think you can drive a little bit further, and then in the end, you kind of just have to rush.
That's right.
So yeah, I think that makes the difference. Help me with that movie, man. It's stuck in my head now. The one where they live in a dome. It's like kind of a dome.
Okay. So anybody else out there that knows the Jim Carrey movie where he was living in the dome? Let's see. Somebody. Good morning, Jan Mariska. That side. Nothing. This side.
I'll remember now. Must
the
be old age.
Let's show the
Truman Show.
The Truman Show.
There
you go. Yeah.
We drove through Takapuna and I said to him, this is just like the Truman Show. All the houses are so neat and tidy. The streets are clean. It's just like you're on a movie set.
Yeah.
It
Coming
really
from South
felt like
Africa,
that.
having clean streets, and
And it's still like
it's
that.
still like that.
It's still like that. Yeah.
So actually, the other day I was down at Sulphur Point, and there was one bottle lying on the grass, and I got out of my car, picked it up, and threw it in the trash, just because one bottle irritated me. And
But you'll find that everyone does
yeah,
that. If
everybody
someone
does that.
walks in the street and there's paper lying,
They pick
so
it up.
they'll pick it up and throw it away. Yeah.
So-
Everyone does it, so that makes the difference.
Something else that impressed me, nearly wrote me off, was the fact that the first time I came to a corner and it said 35. I thought, what? What were they drinking? Because we were on 100 kilometers an hour piece of road, and the first one of the corners we came to just said 35, and we had a little Daihatsu Sirion that time that we rented. And my goodness, that car at about 45, we went around that corner, because when I went into the corner, I saw there was big problems coming up. And yeah.
That's why you should listen.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't think when you're driving on a normal road anywhere else in the world that's 100 kilometers an hour the whole road.
Well, if they say 35,
Yep,
there's a reason
there's
for
a
it.
reason why. So that's part of the uniqueness of New Zealand. So another thing that for the first few times I didn't know what was going on was the fact that we were driving in the Coromandel. I don't know if you remember, and suddenly the lorries or the trucks started moving left. As you approached them from behind, they started moving left, and then you went past and they came back in. I never knew that they actually gave way to you the whole time. That
What
was,
are you thinking?
I mean, South Africa, come on.
Yeah, no, there's quite
Coming
a few
from South
things
Africa,
that
I
you
mean,
have to
that
get
was
used to.
totally amazing. Now I find it normal when I've got hooked my caravan, when I've hooked my boat, there's cars behind me. I'm the guy going to the left, letting everybody pass. But in South Africa, you get two trucks stuck next to each other on the highway at 60 kilometers an hour, and that's the normal.
I think sometimes you just kind of have to remember all the good stuff that you found was great of New Zealand when you get a little bit irritated.
Seeing that as good.
Yes.
And keep seeing that
just
as
remind
good.
yourself, this was actually one of the things that I really admired, or it's a good thing to just think about it again.
The other day we went during lockdown, so I don't know if Jacinda's watching. Jacinda's not yet. During lockdown, we drove a dirt road here at the back of our house, and we've driven that a lot of times. And during lockdown, to drive that little dirt road was a real bliss. It was. I actually loved it once again. I mean, we could easily drive that every day. That one between us and Tapuki. I could actually drive it every day if I want to. But I don't. I haven't driven that in about a year's time. The other day, just driving that, that was really good. It was really, really good. So,
and the thing is now that it's raining. It's been raining now for 3 or 4 days. When you drive, you've got all these small little waterfalls just on the side of the road, everywhere. It's really beautiful. It's like the ferry should be.
And sometimes you just need to slow down and look around you. That's really, you just sometimes just need to slow down a bit and look around you.
Yeah. And you know what's nice about the back roads now? Or, just because it's slower, everyone is a little bit slower.
Yeah.
I like to sometimes when you drive past something and you think, oh, I should take a picture of this, or you should have a photo. You can actually just stop, get out and take a photo.
Oh, yeah.
There's no rush.
No. And other people will wait for you.
No, that makes a difference.
So, we're busy filming a new, hopefully soon to be a series called Expedition Aotearoa. And this is where we take our 4x4s and travel through areas, not rough 4x4 terrain, but areas where you can take your mall crawler and go and see what's out there. And we went this past Sunday, we went to an area. Oh my goodness. And it was not very far from us.
No.
It was an area that I would have never driven ever in my life without. I mean, there's no other reason for me to go there. And it was so beautiful. It was cold. It was cold, but it was so beautiful. So we'll soon have this video available for you guys, but I'll let you know as soon as that is done. So it can take another week or so because we're busy cutting that. Something else that amazed me, is the differences in houses, especially roof lines. I still don't understand. This is still one of the weird and wonderful things about New Zealand. If you look at roof lines of houses, the more straight your roof line can be, the cheaper it becomes. That is rule of thumb. The other thing is some of these roof lines, I don't know how they got to that. Because you got a roof there, then another one coming off here, and one in there, and a small piece coming down here. They must have had.
That's not something that I've noticed.
Oh no, I've
Maybe it's
noticed.
just not
I
important.
look at houses and I think, geez,
I look at other stuff.
I just look and think, who thought this is a good idea? So, what else impressed you about New Zealand? Let's say 2016 when you arrived.
No, you should ask me questions. Not all the questions must be the same, please.
Okay, I'll ask you something else. And I said I'm going to reveal some stuff of you. She ended up in hospital in 2016, or in what's it, daycare.
White Cross.
White Cross in Auckland.
Daycare.
Daycare.
Sounds like a creche.
One thing that was weird there, but that is because we were foreigners. We had to pay for everything before anything was done.
Mm-hmm.
So go in, we had to pay. Then the doctor says he's going to do this. We had to pay. The doctor's going to do that. We have to pay. But your experience of that hospital,
Yeah, it wasn't really a hospital. It's more like a clinic.
Clinic type of thing. I mean, that was your first
Yeah.
experience in New Zealand.
No, it was a good experience.
Okay. So that gave you enough courage to think that the medical or the health side of New Zealand is not that bad.
That bad, yeah.
Okay.
And the nurse was really nice.
Mm.
No, it wasn't a bad experience. It was a good experience. And I just wanted to help. So I think any experience would have been good to me.
This stuff. Let me get the camera in there. Water.
Mm.
This comes out of the tap.
Yeah, that was big for us because when we left South Africa from Cape Town, that it was at that stage where you had to take your can, go and stand in the street in a line and wait for water. And
You had to go and buy it.
Just started, yeah. So we bought all our water from Pick n Pay or whatever. And we
if
were
you
in
opened the taps, it was this white.
You couldn't drink the
You couldn't
water.
drink it,
Yeah,
no.
you couldn't drink the water. So
Scarcely bathed in it.
when we got here, that was really it was really nice to just drink from the tap again and to be able to bath, to take a bath.
It was like 2 years without a bath.
Oh, and I love to bath, and all of a sudden, it was 2 years that I wasn't allowed to. So
I think the one thing that I love in nature, that's water. That's why I actually, although I give the Aucklanders a lot of crap, I actually like Auckland as a city because you go over the little hill, then there's water. Go over that little hill, there's water. There's always water somewhere, and I just love that feeling. Even Rotorua, even the little smelly little city Rotorua, it's got water all over that. I just love that, and the fact that we are so near to the ocean. Coming from, for those who don't know, I grew up in Kimberley in the North Cape, which is probably one of the driest areas in the country to live in. Coming from there to Cape Town was already for me wow. And then coming here with all this water, this still amazes me. It still amazes me.
It's really
beautiful. If I go to see clients, I just park alongside the road next to a piece of water before I go and see them. If I'm early, and then I just check the waves. If there's no waves, I just watch the water. It's something. It's living. It's give me that feeling of living. So, what other big impressions did you get in 2016 that you still have? That's a difficult one. The one thing that was weird for me is when we arrived at Auckland in 2016. You think of international airports, you think of hustle and bustle, and this Auckland airport wasn't that busy. It was actually slow going there.
It's actually nice.
But that was nice, but I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it was just something totally different. It was
small and clean,
easy, and you could just walk out. You knew where you were.
Yeah,
so that was easy.
It's
quite easy airport.
Yeah,
because we've been on airports in the world that you go on for days and still don't know where you were.
Yeah.
So even if you take me back to the same airport today, I won't find my way around.
Easy airport.
So it was quite easy to work.
And the people are very friendly.
Tanya saying the first thing we noticed was people leaving their cars in the street and not locking their homes and closing the windows. The first things I noticed of the houses was there was no burglar bars.
Yeah.
Jeez, that had me so afraid. I promise you that
I know, you were
I
paranoid.
was paranoid. I mean, I would check the house and think, goodness, we booked here. We didn't know there's no burglar bars. It
Yeah.
was
It
hectic.
was very easy for me to adapt to that side of New Zealand. It was very difficult for you to
It was very
adapt
difficult.
to, yeah.
I would say it took me 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
And the problem with these New Zealand houses, they are made to move because of the earthquake and stuff like that. But they creak a bit. Now, back in South Africa, if your house creaks, somebody is breaking in. So the first 6 months, if the house creaked, I was up.
And I would say it's just the ice in the freezer, or it's just this, or
the
it's just
wind.
that.
Or,
But he
oh
never believed
my
me. He got up
goodness.
anyway. Yeah.
These days, the fact that I hear it creaking means it's still there. So
But I think that
that's
also
good.
depends on what kind of personality you have. I am not
Yeah.
a paranoid person. So I think that's why
I think
it's just so easy
I'm just
for me.
overprotective.
Yeah.
So,
But I
yeah.
think for a man, it's
Mm.
maybe a little bit different. It's in your DNA to be like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. And even growing up, we didn't have burglar bars. That was in the 80s. We didn't have burglar bars. We would in the middle of the night get out through our windows and go and sit outside in the garden
Yeah.
or stuff like that. We weren't very naughty because if they caught us being naughty, ons gat is al gebrand het.
Yeah.
Just somebody saying in 2004, I couldn't peacefully sleep because of no burglar bars. Yeah, everything changed from, I would say, 1990, but that's all country's problem. Um, a few things that impressed me and still impresses me is the fact that, for instance, when they clean our bins out, our rubbish bins, it's one guy, one truck.
Yeah.
It's not a heap of people walking around shifting
And it
stuff.
still gets done.
Still gets done. Still gets done at a massive speed. It's not as if they now take 10 times longer. It gets done, and it just happens, and it works.
It still gets done.
Yeah, sometimes I find the generosity, can I call it that? The generosity of the locals, even the local South Africans now moving over. The generosity of those. If somebody needs a bed, they put it on Facebook. We need a bed. Within half an hour, they have a bed. They even have somebody else. Yeah, they even have somebody else offering to come and pick up the bed and drop it off for them.
Yeah.
So
everyone looks out for everyone else.
yeah, that's something
good.
that still impresses me. Yeah, you have scammers here as well, but it's one of those things you're going to have it everywhere. Going to have it everywhere.
Yeah, it's out. Yeah.
One thing I've got to say, we've been to a heap of countries all over the world, and in New Zealand, I can see those countries. From time to time, I would drive in an area and think, wow, this looks like Scotland.
Yeah.
Or, wow, this looks like, I haven't seen Israel and Jordania yet, but probably if you're there on a part of desert road, you'll probably see a part of Scotland. But the South Island, there were so many areas that I thought, geez, this looked like South Africa.
There are a lot of
extremely
places
lots
in
of
New
Africa.
Zealand that does compare to South Africa.
Or to the rest of the
That
world.
is what makes it so easy to adapt. You
Yeah.
know? It's not like you're in totally a different world. I hear that some of the people, mostly men, my son is one of them, they miss the flat areas and the bushes and the stuff and sand. They miss that. Yeah.
The smell of dirt on your
The karoo.
karoo.
Yeah, that they miss that because you don't really get that.
Yeah.
You get areas where it's more flat and more stretched out, where there's not so many hills and houses and stuff. So you get that, but it's not.
You go to the South
everywhere.
Island, there were areas that I thought, I'm in the middle of Colesburg.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Jeez, this looks like Colesburg.
Mm.
And it really looks like Colesburg.
And just around the corner, it looks like Natal.
50 kilometers further, you've got these rolling
It's
green
really-
hills. And
There's a
then
surprise around every corner.
we drove through the Catlins. That was in the South Island. We actually totally misunderstood the amount of time it's going to take
Yeah.
to get through there. I would want to do the Catlins again, but I would want to have at least 5 days there.
Yeah.
Because you could go from no scenery to a rainforest within
And the
10
thing is,
kilometers.
there are many places where you can stop with lookout points
Yeah.
and walkways and all that. And when we visited the South Island, it was raining all the time, so we couldn't do
Yeah,
all
the
the
Catalans, we
walks,
caught the Catalans back. It was,
unfortunately. So, but I'd love to go back because everyone says it's one of the most.
and then I
beautiful
want to go back to
areas.
Fox Glacier. I want to see that. I actually watched a movie, or small clip on YouTube about that this morning, and we couldn't see anything. The clouds was like 200 meters from us. It was just totally cloudy. It was raining like crazy.
Yeah, well, it's the luck of the draw, hey.
Right. Dean Morgan saying something that impressed me is the self-help waypoint at most of the grocery stores. And it still impresses me. And the fact that they don't check up, are you doing the right thing? Or
they
are
don't have to. That machine will tell you if you took something that we're not allowed to.
That is good.
You still get irritated with it sometimes, I must say.
I do if I... nothing
so if you've got a short temper, just go to one of the checkout points. Let someone help you rather.
I buy Heineken Zero, which is zero alcohol, so-called beers. And if I ring that up, all the red lights flashes. Looks like if I'm in a casino and I hit the jackpot. And they said, somebody has to come and verify your age. I mean, come on. This is zero alcohol.
It's one of the rules.
Do I look under 18?
If you get irritated by it every time, it's just your own fault.
I think the biggest problem is I tried to make a joke about it and they don't understand that.
Yeah, they don't get it. They don't get jokes.
All right. Listen, you got to say goodbye to the people now because time has come and gone.
Okay.
All right. Guys, girls, thanks a lot. And we hope that Auckland gets out of level 4 on Tuesday.
We really hope so. You guys.
We need you guys to be out of there. Really. The rest of the New Zealand economy is hanging on a thread. And sadly enough, we have to rely on you guys to pull us through now. Okay. So that's a lot. Thanks a lot. And don't be naughty this weekend. See you all later.
Bye-bye.